I have some big news for the Texans fans. We are expected to get star linebacker Christian Harris back after the bye week. So huge addition. Christian Harris has been dealing with a calf injury pretty much for the whole season, and a couple things to talk about in terms of the defense and what are we going to do on the bye. But the biggest thing to kind of note here is Christian Harris is set to come back, and he is such a crucial piece of this team. We've been missing him all season long. Now, Henry 202, he was able to step up. Now, with the suspension of Azeez Al-Shaair, that's going to be the biggest problem. He's done until week 18, but this is no longer a regular season problem. It's more about getting him ready, getting his feet kind of on the ground, back to full speed. He hasn't played in 13 weeks of football. He's been out since kind of that August 27th mark is when they put him on the IR. But Christian Harris, absolute monster for this team. And again, we'll mention kind of the injury bug here in a second. But honestly, let's look at the stats. Christian Harris, vocal kind of leader of this team. Before getting Azeez Al-Shaair, Shaair is kind of more of a veteran. Harris, he's a young stud, and it's definitely nice to have guys surrounding him like Will Anderson off the edge, as well as bringing in Danielle Hunter. And if we had Harris, I think the tackling would be a lot better. The secondary has still been a problem, but overall, the stats speak for themselves. He's a very good coverage guy. He can rush the passer, but at the same time, he's more of a coverage guy. Christian Harris, big addition for the team. Expected to be back out there for Week 15. Definitely excited to see how the Texans are able to kind of push him back. So they expect to play the Dolphins. They definitely have a rough schedule ahead of them. They got the Dolphins at home Week 15. They go to the Chiefs and Ravens, and then we have to finish it out with the Titans, who we lost to last week, or the week before the Jacksonville game. Anyway, moving into the injuries on the defensive side, this has been kind of the key. I mean, it's not really a key, but at the same time, this has been the biggest problem all season. The defense, if I could find the injuries here we are, injury tab. It's bad. I mentioned the suspension with Azeez Al-Shaair. He's out for 3 games. He's out till week 18. So we kind of need Christian Harris back like right now. If Harris is going to stay out, and we obviously don't want him to force his comeback, right? We want to see him for playoffs. The Texans kind of have a really good hold on the AFC South, so there's no reason to rush him back. But after 13 weeks of a lingering calf injury, we would like to see him get back out there. And to see, Devin White, we signed him this offseason once the Eagles cut him, so that is a good sign. Maybe White can fill in and out. I know Harris isn't going to play 100% of snaps, and I'm not expecting him to. But to get him prepared for the playoffs would be huge. Now, there's a huge problem in the secondary. I've talked about it kind of all season long over the past few videos. The secondary problems, that has been probably the worst for this team. Jalen Pitre, likely out for the rest of the season. It was potentially season-ending surgery, or just he has a partially torn pectoral muscle, so that's a massive hit to the defensive secondary. We'll pull up his stats really quick. He's been a one-man, single-man wrecking crew, and I hate to say single-man, but he's been kind of holding the secondary down. There's been problems, but he's still been the same hard-hitting safety, improving, and that's a huge, huge loss. Now, as far as the injuries, that's kind of where it goes. Jimmy Ward's been banged up, but it's kind of been, the biggest problem's been the zone coverage, I think. Derek Stingley, been pretty locked down. Kamari Lassiter, he's done a good job as well. Rookie second-round pick out of Georgia. But overall, the biggest thing is the linebacking kind of getting like this. It's getting really short. And with Shaair getting suspended, they tried to appeal it, but they ended up upholding it. And that's been just something of short nature, I guess, as the Texans' defense has been good and bad. It's really the front seven that has taken so much control, and the offense has been a little bit stagnant here and there. But let's focus on the defense and honestly transition into the final thing we'll talk about today. Is on the bye, right? You have a week 14 bye, a little late in the season, but this is an important bye, right? This is a very important bye week, potentially getting Christian Harris back. What do you do? Well, all season long, the Texans have been bad. Bad. And the sophomore slump, it's real. I didn't think it was real for quarterbacks, and we'll talk about how I think the Texans can still do something in the playoffs in the next video. However, we have to address what has gone wrong. I want to give the positives where the positives are. The offense has been better in past weeks, but that is not going to win a Super Bowl. If you continue to play like that, it's just not looking so good. Now, losing Stephon Diggs didn't help. Losing Jalen Pitre didn't help, but that's the way things go. Football, you're going to have to deal with injuries. And on the bye, getting back on track, on the bye this week, I want to see the Texans be able to kind of slow things down, right? Address the offensive problems, see what's going wrong. Why are we throwing picks? Can we get on the same page with Bobby Slowick and CJ Stroud? They've been a little bit off pace. And although a sophomore slump season seems I would say unheard of because we've seen it before, but the point is you've seen sophomore seasons where quarterbacks have gone on to win Super Bowls, and I've talked about it before. But this team is not dead yet. Having a Week 14 bye, a late bye in the season, it's crazy because you can have a hold on things. You could turn things around. The defense is not really my concern. Although Shire's suspended, although Harris is banged up coming back from a calf injury, although Pitre's out for the year, although the offense has looked bad and we seem to be struggling, and Mixon's been kind of the whole threshold of what we're trying to do is run the ball on offense, and it's worked. But this is the time where you have to just say, all right, take a breath, figure out, okay, what can we do to improve step by step and break things down so that we can get back on track? Because I've been saying it for weeks now, the Texans have to get back on track, and they haven't been able to. So that's probably the biggest thing is my worries is the offense, and the offensive line has not held up. I had a graphic on here, but CJ Stroud is one of the most sacked quarterbacks in fall of football. He's definitely top 5, and this is last week. So in a week's time, where does that fall? It's just, for me, looking at the offense, I think the biggest problem, and I know I've said the biggest problem like 18 times, but you look at Nico Collins getting banged up. That didn't help. But as bad as the offense is right now, and I've said it before, it doesn't matter just yet. Only because all you have to do is get to the playoffs. In a division where you have the Colts that are behind you, the Jaguars, the Titans, it's kind of crazy how the Texans have been able to have a down season and still just take so much control of this division. It's pretty incredible. And to be 2 games ahead of the Colts, who could potentially sneak back into the divisional picture, and having a 2-0 sweep on them is huge. So you pretty much have the AFC South under wraps. However, all you got to do, get to the playoffs, get in as the 4 seed. You play maybe the Chargers or the Broncos, one of those teams in the wild card, whether that is any of the teams, who knows, maybe even the Ravens. But that's when you have to play your best football is in the playoffs. And I don't even care if we lose, and this is going to sound bad, but if the Texans lose out the rest of the year, I don't have a problem with that. The injuries, not the best, but if you could figure out, the Texans could lose to the Dolphins, they could lose to the Ravens, they could lose to the Chiefs, and maybe beat the Titans week 18. But that's not really the problem. You could lose out. The Colts might lose out. This is where it gets scary because I don't want to say they're going to lose out because they'll probably win a couple of those games and try and get back on track. This is the point of the bye and trying to figure out the bye week. Now, ramble on for a little bit. One more comment before I exit. When you're in the playoffs, we've seen it before. Stroud is able to have that clutch gene. And I don't know if it's just the type of season we're seeing, but I believe that if the Texans don't go to the AFC Championship, I don't think the season is what it should be. And it might surprise some fans to say, we really aren't really supposed to go to the AFC Championship. We've had a down year. It's a sophomore slump type of year. Stroud hasn't looked bad at times. Nico Collins was in, then out. Diggs getting hurt didn't help us. The offensive line is definitely not going to help us in the playoffs. All those things may be true. However, the way this team is structured, I want to see them win now. And to win a playoff game would definitely be a positive, especially from last year we beat the Browns. You definitely want to see them make progress. And there's definitely potential for that. But it's all a matter of time and how they can bounce back from this bye. The bye is the one step closer to figuring out how you're able to put a wrap on this season. And when you get a wrap on the regular season, then the postseason is a different breed. And having DeMeco Ryans and Bobby Slowick and CJ Stroud, I know they're all, young guys. Slowick was with the Niners as a coordinator, so that doesn't technically count. However, DeMeco's a second-year head coach. Stroud's a second-year quarterback. You got to figure out where this team stands before the postseason. Because if you could figure that out and go into Week 18 and look 100 times better than you did all season, that is momentum into the playoffs. And that's what the Texans need, and it all starts with this bye week. So thank you everyone so much for watching. A little update on Christian Harris. We'll have some future videos ready for you. Subscribe to the channel for all Texans news. We're on a bye this week, but that don't stop us. So again, thank you everyone so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace out.